Okay, let me begin by saying what had happened was, we have skipped the entire month of April and part of March, but I am back. Welcome back to my channel where we are reading the Bible in a year. We are reading the entire Bible in a year. And forget what day we're supposed to be on, but we are in May. And we're supposed to be in Acts, but we're still in Matthew. So my big plan is to catch up. We are going to finish up Matthew. All right, so here we go. We are on Matthew 16, and we're just going to keep on reading until my Alexa alarm goes off. And I have it set, so basically I'm not going to stop the video or edit that part out. You'll just know it's time for me to go to work. All right, Matthew 16, the demand for a sign. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to test Jesus. They asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, when it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah. Then he left them and went away. And the sign is his death and resurrection. The yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. When the disciples reached the other side, they had forgotten to bring any bread. Jesus said to them, watch out and beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They said to one another, it is because we have brought no bread. And becoming aware of it, Jesus said, you of little faith, why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not perceive? Do you not remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000? And how many baskets you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000? And how many baskets you gathered? How could you fail to perceive that I was not speaking about bread? Beware of the year of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They understood that he had not told them to beware of the yeast of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Peter's declaration about Jesus. Now, when Jesus came to the district of Caesarea of Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they say, some say John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He has said to them, but who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon, and son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Jesus foretells his death and resurrection. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the 3rd day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, God forbid it, Lord. This must never happen to you. But he turned to Peter and said, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. The cross and self-denial. Then Jesus told his disciples, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will it give them in return for their life? For the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father. Then he will repay everyone for what has been done. Truly I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. The Transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John, and led them up the high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like sun, his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking to him. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here if you wish. I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, This is my son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Get up, and do not be afraid. And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? He replied, Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him. But they did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. Jesus cures a boy with a demon. When they came to a crowd, a man from him came to him, knelt before him, and said, Lord, have mercy for my son, for he is epileptic, and he suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Jesus answered, You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was cured instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, Why could we not cast it out? He said to them, Because of your little faith. For truly I tell you, if you have the faith of the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will be moved, and nothing will be impossible for you. Jesus again foretells his death and resurrection. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him. And on the 3rd day he will be raised, and they were greatly distressed. Jesus and the temple tax. When they reached Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and said, Does your teacher not pay the temple tax? He said, Yes, he does. And when he came home, Jesus spoke of it first, asking, What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their children or from others? When Peter said, From others, Jesus said to him, Then the children are free. However, so that we do not give offense to them, go into the sea and cast a hook. Take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a coin. Take that and give it to them for you and me. True greatness, chapter 18. At the time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a child whom he put among them and said, Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. Temptations to sin. If any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for you if a great millstone were fastened around your neck and you were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of the stumbling blocks. Occasions for stumbling are bound to come, but woe to the one by whom the stumbling block comes. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter the life maimed or lame than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell of fire. The parable of the lost sheep. Take care that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you, in heaven their angels continually see the face of my Father in heaven. Why do you think, if a shepherd has 100 sheep, one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains in search of the one that went astray? And he finds it. Truly I tell you, he rejoices over it more over than 99 than that 99 that never went astray. So it is not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones should be lost. Reproving another who sins. If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the 2 of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by evidence of the 2 or 3 witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church, and if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as gentle and be as a Gentile and tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you have loose on earth will be loosened in heaven. Again, I truly tell you, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Forgiveness. Then Peter came and said to him, Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, no, 7 times, but I tell you 77 times. The parable of the unforgiving servant. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, the one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him, and as he could not pay, his Lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, have patience with me, I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of that slave released him and forgave him the debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, pay me what you owe. Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me, and I will pay you. But he refused, and then he went out and threw him into prison until he would pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their Lord all that had taken place. Then his Lord summoned him and said to him, you wicked slave, I forgave you all the debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have the mercy on your fellow slave as I have mercy on you? And in anger, his Lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you, if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart. 19. Teaching about divorce. When Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee, went to the region of Judea, beyond the Jordan. Large crowds followed him, and he cured them there. Some Pharisees came to him and tested him and said, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any cause? He answered, Have you not read that the one who made them at the beginning made them male and female? He said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and his mother, be joined to his wife, and the 2 should become one flesh. So they are no longer 2, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. They said to him, when did Moses command us to give a certificate of dismissal and divorce her? He said to them, it's because you were so hard-hearted that Moses allows you to divorce your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for unchastity and marries another one commits adultery. His disciples said to him, if such is the case of a man and his wife, is it better not to marry? But he said to them, not everyone can accept this teaching, but only those whom it is given. For there are Enochs who have been so from birth, and there are Enochs who have been made Enochs by others. And there are Enochs who have been made themselves Enochs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Let everyone accept this who can. Jesus blesses little children. Then little children were being brought to him in order that he might lay his hands on them and pray. The disciples spoke sternly to those who brought them. But Jesus said, let the little children come to me, and do not stop them, for it is such as these that the kingdom of heaven belongs. And he laid his hands on them and went on his way. The rich young man. When someone came to him and said, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? And he said to him, why do you ask me what is good? There is only one who is good. If you wish to enter life, keep the commandments. He said to him, which ones? Jesus said, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, I have kept these. What do I still lack? Jesus said to him, if you wish to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. When the young man heard this word, he went away grieving, for he had many possessions. Then Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it will be hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easy for a camel to go in through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astounded and said, then who can be saved? But Jesus looked at them and said, for mortals it is impossible. For God, all things are possible. Then Peter said in reply, look, we have left everything and followed you. What then will we have? Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man is seated at the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or fields, for my name's sake, will receive 100-fold and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last will be first. The laborers in the vineyard. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right. So they went. When he went out again about noon, about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, why are you standing here idle all day? They said to him, because no one has hired us. He said to them, you also go into the vineyard. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first. When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but for each of them they also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying these last work only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and scorching heat. But he replied to one of them, friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give this last the same as I give you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last. A third time, Jesus foretells his death and resurrection. When Jesus was going to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves and said to them on the way, see, we are going to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death. Then they will hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified. And on the third day he will be raised. The request of the mother of James and John. Then the mother of the sons Zebedee came to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked a favor of them. And he said to her, what do you want? She said to him, declare that these 2 sons of mine will sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your kingdom. But Jesus answered, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am able to drink? They said to him, we are able. He said to them, you will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and at my left, this is not mine to grant, but it is for those whom it has been prepaid by my Father. When the 10 heard it, they were angry with the 2 brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. It will not be so among you, but whoever wishes to be great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Jesus heals 2 blind men. As they were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. There were 2 blind men sitting by the roadside. When they heard that Jesus was passing by, they shouted, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. The crowd sternly ordered them to be quiet, but they shouted even more loudly, have mercy upon us, Lord, Son of David. Jesus stood and called them, saying, what do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Lord, let our eyes be open. Moved with compassion, Jesus touched their eyes immediately. They regained their sight and followed him. Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. When they had come near Jerusalem and had reached Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, just say this: the Lord needs them, and he will send them immediately. This took place to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet, saying, tell the daughter of Zion, look to your king. Look, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. The disciples went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put their cloaks on them. I just got distracted by something. And put the cloaks on them. And he sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, and the others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and that followed were shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. When he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was in turmoil, asking, who is this? The crowds were saying, this is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee. Jesus cleanses the temple. Then Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who were selling and buying in the temple. And he overturned the tables of money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. He said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. The blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he cured them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the amazing things that he had did, they heard the children crying out in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David. They became angry and said to him, do you hear what these are saying? Jesus said to them, yes, have you never read? Out of the mouths of infants and nursing babies you have prepared praise for yourself. He left them, went out of the city of Bethany, and spent the night there. Jesus cures the fig tree. In the morning when he returned to the city, he was hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the side of the road, he went to it, found nothing on it but leaves. He said to it, may no fruit ever come from you again. And the fig tree withered at once. When the disciples saw it, they were amazed, saying, how did the fig tree wither at once? Jesus answered them, truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only will you do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be lifted and thrown into the sea, it will be done. Whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive. The authority of Jesus' question. When he entered the temple of the priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was reaching, he said, by what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority? Jesus said to them, I will also ask you one question. If you tell me the answer, then I will also tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it from the human origin? And they argued with one another. If we say from heaven, he will say to us, why then do you not believe him? But if we say of human origin, he will be afraid. We are afraid of the crowd, for all regard John as a prophet. So they answered Jesus, we do not know. And he said to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I'm doing these things. The parable of the 2 sons. What do you think? A man who had 2 sons. He went to his first and said, son, go work in the vineyard today. He answered, I will not. But later he changed his mind and went. The father went to the second and said the same. He answered, I go, sir. But he did not go. Which of the 2 did the will of his father? He said the first. Jesus said to them, truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are going into the kingdom of God ahead of you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness. You did not believe him. But the tax collectors and the prostitutes believed him. And even after you saw it, you did not change your minds and believe him. The parable of the wicked tenants. Listen to another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a fence around it, and dug a wine press into it, and built a watchtower. Then he leased it to tenants and went to another country. When harvest time came, he sent his slaves to the tenants to collect his produce. But the tenants seized his slaves and beat one killed another and stoned another. Again, he sent other slaves more than the first, and they treated them the same way. Finally, he sent his son to them, saying, they respect my son. But when tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, this is their heir. Come, let us kill him and get his inheritance. So they seized him, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. Now when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? They said to him, he will put those wretches into a miserable death and lease the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the produce at harvest time. Jesus said to them, have you never read the scriptures? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is amazing in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to people that produces the fruit of the kingdom. The one who falls on this stone will be broken into pieces, and it will crush anyone whom it falls. When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they realized that he was speaking about them. They wanted to arrest him, but they feared the crowds because they regarded him as a prophet. The parable of the wedding banquet. 22. Once more, Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven must be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again, he sent other slaves, saying, tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared dinner. My oxen, my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But when they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his slaves, mistreated them, and killed them, the king was engaged. He sent his troops, destroyed those murderers that burned their city. Then he said to his slaves, the wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main streets and invite everyone you find to the wedding banquet. Those slaves went into the streets and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad. So the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing a wedding robe. And he said to them, friend, how did you get in here without a wedding robe? And he was speechless. The king said to the attendants, bind him hand and foot and throw him out into the corner darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. The question about paying taxes. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent the disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with the truth, and show the difference to no one. For you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, why are you putting me to the test? You hypocrites, show me the coin used for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, whose head is this, and whose title? They answered, it's the emperor's. Then he said to them, give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. When he heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The question about the resurrection. The same day, some Sadducees came to him, saying, there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, teacher, Moses said, if a man dies childless, his brother shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died childless, leaving the widow to his brother. The second did the same, so as the third down to the 7th. Last of all, the woman herself died. In the resurrection then, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For all of them had married her. Jesus answered them, you are wrong, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. As for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is the God not of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowd heard it, they were astounded at his teaching. The greatest commandment. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. One of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test them. Teacher, what commandment in the law is the greatest? He said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law of the prophets. The question about David's son. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them this question: What do you think of the Messiah? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. He said to them, how is it then the son that David by the Spirit calls him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If David thus calls him Lord, how can he be his son? No one was able to give him an answer, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. All right, chapter 23. I'm going to see if I can get this done in like 10 minutes. And that way I only have chapter 24 through 28 left in the book of Matthew. Then Jesus said to the crowds and his disciples, the scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. Therefore, do whatever they teach you and follow it. But do not do as they do, for they do not practice what they teach. They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on the shoulders of others. But they themselves are unwilling to lift a finger to move them. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long. They love to have the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues, and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and to have the people call them rabbi. But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all students. And call no one your father on earth. You have one Father, and the one in heaven. Nor are you to be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. All who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all who humble themselves will be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you lock people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you do not go in yourselves. And when others are going in, you stop them. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cross sea and land and make a single convert, and you make the new convert twice as much as a child of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the sanctuary is bound by nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the sanctuary is bound by the oath. You blind fools, for which is greater, the gold or the sanctuary that has made the gold sacred? And you say, whoever swears by the altar is bound by nothing, but whoever swears by the gift that is on the altar is bound by an oath. How blind are you? For which is greater, the gift of the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it, by everything on it, and whoever swears by the sanctuary swears by it, and by the one who dwells in it, and whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God, and by the one who is seated upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tint mint, dill, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. It is these you ought to have practiced without neglecting the others. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup of the plate, but the inside are full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup, so that the outside may also become clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside look beautiful, but inside they are full of the bones of the dead and all the kinds of filth. So you also on the inside look righteous to others, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we live in the days of our ancestors, we will not have taken part with them in the shedding of blood of the prophets. Thus you testify against yourselves that you are descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your ancestors, you snakes, you brood of vipers. How can you escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore I send you prophets, sages, and scribes, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town, so that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of the righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly I tell you, all this will come upon this generation. the lament over Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent in it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you are not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. All right, chapter 24. Matthew 24. The destruction of the temple foretold. As Jesus came out of the temple and was going away, his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. Then he asked them, you see all these? Do you not? Truly I tell you, not one stone will be left here upon another, and will be thrown down. Signs of the end of age. When he was sitting at the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Jesus answered him, beware that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they will lead many astray. And you will hear the wars of rumors and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All this is but the beginning of the birth pangs. Persecutions foretold. Then they will hand you over to be tortured and will put you to death. And you will be hated by all nations because of my name. Then many will fall away, and they will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, and love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this good news of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. The desolating sacrilege. So when you see the desolating sacrilege standing in the holy place, as was spoken by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains, and the one on the housetop must not go down to take what is in the house. The one in the field must not turn back to get a coat. Woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing infants in those days. Pray that your fight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For that time there will be great suffering, such has not been from the beginning of the world until now. No, and never will be. And if those days had not been cut short, no one would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if someone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and produce great signs and omens and lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Take note, I have told you beforehand. So if they say to you, look, he is in the wilderness, do not go out. If they say, look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. The coming of the Son of Man. Immediately after the suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven. The powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heaven, and then the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the earth to the other. The lesson of the fig tree. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender, it puts forth leaves. You know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near. In the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The necessity for watchfulness. But about that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two will be in the field, and one will be taken and one will be left. Two women will be grinding meal together. One will be taken, and one will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would have not let his house be broken into. Therefore, you must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. The faithful or the unfaithful slave. Who then is the faithful and wise slave, whom his master has put in charge of his household to give the other slaves their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is the slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that wicked slave says to himself, my master is delayed, and he begins to beat his fellow slaves and eats and drinks with the drunkards, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know. He will cut him into pieces and put him with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. The parable of the 10 bridesmaids. 25. The kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, look, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise replied, no, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves. And while they went out to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came, also saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he replied, truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. The parable of talents. For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then when he went away, the one who received 5 talents went off at once and traded them and made 5 more talents. The same with the one who had 2 talents, made 2 more talents. But the one who had received just 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with him. The one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you handed me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you handed me 2 talents. See, I've made 2 more talents. His master said to him, well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy over a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master replied, you wicked and lazy slave, you knew, did you, that I reap what I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I should have received what was mine with interest. So take the talent from him, give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The judgment of the nations. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. And then the king will say to those at his right hand, come, you that are blessed be by my Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? When was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when it was that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did to me. Then he will say to those at his left hand, you that are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil for his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me, naked, and you did not give me clothing, sick, in prison, and in prison you did not visit me. Then they also will answer, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not take care of you? Then he will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did not do to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but righteous into eternal life. 26. The plot to kill Jesus. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, you know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the place of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and they conspired to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people. The anointing at Bethany. Now while Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, why this waste? For this ointment could have been sold for a large sum and the money given to the poor. But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, why do you trouble the woman? She has performed a good service for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. By pouring this ointment on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her. Judas agrees to betray Jesus. Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what will you give me if I betray him to you? They paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. The Passover with the disciples. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover? He said, go to a city and a certain man and say to him, teacher says, my name is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and they were eating. And he said, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another, surely not I, Lord. He answered, the one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born. Judas, who betrayed him, said, surely not I, Rabbi. He replied, you have said so. The institution of the Lord's Supper. While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, take, eat, this is my body. Then he took the cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many of the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Peter's denial foretold. Then Jesus said to them, you will all become deserters because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But if I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee. Peter said to him, though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you. Jesus said to him, truly I tell you that this very night before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, even though I must die with you, I will not deny you. And so said all the disciples. Jesus prays at Gethsemane. When Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, he said to the disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took with him Peter and 2 sons Zebedee. And Peter be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here. Stay awake with me. And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. He said to Peter, so could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into a time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, he went away for a second time and prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass until I drink it, your will be done. Your will be done. Again, he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for a 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. The betrayal and arrest of Jesus. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, the one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him. At once he came up to Jesus and said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. Jesus said to him, friend, do what you are here to do. And they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, put your sword back in its place, for all you who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way? At the hour that Jesus had said to the crowds, have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Jesus before high priest. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, and as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none. Though many false witnesses came forward, at last 2 came forward and said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days. The high priest stood up and said, have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you? But Jesus was silent, and the high priest said to him, I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, you have said so, but I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, he has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict? They answered, he deserves death. They spat in his face and struck him. Some slapped him, saying, prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you? Peter's denial of Jesus. Now Peter was sitting outside the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, you also were with Jesus the Galilean. But he denied it before all of them, saying, I do not know what you're talking about. When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, this man was with Jesus of Nazareth. Again he denied it with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you. Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, I do not know the man. At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said. Before the cock crows, you would deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly. Chapter 27. Jesus brought before Pilate. When the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. The suicide of Judas. When Judas, his betrayer, saw Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said, I have sinned by betraying the innocent blood. But they said, what is that to us? See to it yourself. Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money. After conferring together, they used them about a potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called a field of blood to this day. Then it was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of one on whom a price has been set, on whom some of the people of Israel has set a price, and they gave them for a potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Pilate questions Jesus. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, You say so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. When Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you? But he gave no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Barabbas or Jesus. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for a crowd, anyone they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah? For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. When he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask Barabbas to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, Which two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called Messiah? All of them said, Let him be crucified. Then he asked, Why? What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, Let him be crucified. Pilate hands Jesus over to be crucified. So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather than that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. Then the people as a whole answered, His blood will be on us and on our children. So he released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. They spat on him and took the reed and struck him in the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. Excuse me. The crucifixion of Jesus. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put a charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, King of the Jews. Then the 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right hand and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days from the cross. In the same way the chief priests also among The scribes and elders were mocking him, saying, He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to, for he said, I am God's son. The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. The death of Jesus. From noon on, the darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, oh my goodness, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard, they said, This man is calling for Elijah. At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on the sick and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. So then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At the moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split, and the tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out to the tombs, and when the centurion and those with him, who were keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, Truly this man was God's son. Many women were also there looking on from a distance, and they had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. The burial of Jesus. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in clean linen cloth and laid it on his own tomb, which had hewn by the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb. The guard at the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of the preparation, the chief priest and the Pharisee gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember what that impostor said while he was still alive. 3 days I will rise again. Therefore, commanded the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may go and steal him away and tell the people he has been raised from the dead. And the last deception would be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it as secure as you can. So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. All right, chapter 28. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb, and suddenly there was a great earthquake. For the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised. And he said, Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his people. He has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you. So they left the tomb quickly and with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. So then Jesus met them and said, Greetings. And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshiped him. When Jesus said to them, Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brother to go to Galilee. There they will see me. I said, Oh. The report of the guard. While they were going, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests everything that had happened. After the priests had assembled with the elders, they devised a plan to give a large sum of money to the soldiers, telling them, You must say, his disciples came by and stole him away while we were sleeping. If this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. So they They took the money and did as they were directed. And this story is still told among Jews to this day. The commissioning of the disciples. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age. All right. So that finishes up Matthew, the book of Matthew. Thank you again for reading with me. Until next time, until tomorrow, be blessed and farewell.